Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ask AJ. I'm AJ Hanna from Symphony Ventures, and I'm here talking about RPA and Intelligent Automation. And today I am with my longtime friend and colleague, Joe Peri. Joe is the CEO of a company called Optivate, who is a partner of Symphony's. And Joe and I have been through a lot together over the last 10 years.
Absolutely.
We've worked in a lot of different environments and operations, and now we're both in the RPA realm. So I thought it would be interesting to have another one of our partners in the industry give us their perspective on why this is important. So Joe, thanks for being with me today. And what the part of the story that I think is most relevant for our folks is that you and I were working together when we started up the RPA program 5 or 6 years ago. So you've been on a similar track and seeing where this technology has been and where it's going. So, tell us a little bit about what your thoughts on RPA and where it's been and where you think we're going with it.
Yeah, sure. No, great. And thanks for having me here. And I think this is an awesome format to talk about this kind of stuff. Our RPA, IPA, whatever we're going to end up calling automation and the different flavors of automation. It really, we've said this over and over again, it really isn't new, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, going back to actually when you and I worked together at Anthem, WellPoint, we were using forms automation way back then.
Yeah.
I think the difference is that the scalability of how you used to do it compared to how you can do it now is totally different and changed. But about 6 years ago, we were building a large scale operation, and we were looking. At first, we were how do we scale, and how do we keep delivering service as we scaled, and then shortly after that, and stabilizing the operation, we were thinking about how do we get our unit costs down, right? How do we do this better, faster, cheaper? And we were actually at a conference, and I don't know if you remember this or not. We were in a breakout session, and we saw a YouTube video, Humans Need Not Apply, right? And
I remember.
We watched it, and we were all thinking in the room, gosh, all our jobs can be replaced. I mean, they were talking about, robots doing art, and being doctors and all kind of cool stuff. And it wasn't futuristic. It was, it was based on now.
Yeah.
And actually that was about a year before we started. So that was about seven and a half years ago.
Yeah.
Time flies, right? But it's like 7.5 years ago, we were thinking, well, this is real stuff. And we left that being inspired, by that video and thinking, geez, yeah, this is something we've done in the past and we're not doing it yet. And so we looked around at tools. And we found Blue Prism, and clearly the front runner, and still is today. They're a very strong organization, and they're making a great product. And so we bought the first license, I believe, in the U.S.
We did.
The UK was using it. Came out of the UK, and so we bought it. It was mature, and we started to apply it. And to our delight, it worked really well.
Yeah.
We ended up cutting approximately $20 million out of our run rate annually, and so it was huge. We tied it in with our CI team and found a lot of synergy there, and it worked really well for us. And so again, the concept of automation isn't new. I think it's the tools that have changed.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about the division of Anthem that we worked for, and I've mentioned this before in previous episodes, we built at that time custom built what we call the virtual claims processor, which if you look at it today, essentially it was a version of robotic process automation.
Yeah.
So as this technology has developed, things that we invested at that time as a company lots of money and lots of time in to build a custom solution that basically did one thing for one system.
Right.
You can now replicate that functionality in a system agnostic way across a broader scale. One of the other things that you've done in your career is you've been a CIO in a software organization. So given that perspective, having been in the software industry, what do you see about RPA that is unique? What do you see about RPA that's making it as attractive as it is in the market today?
That's a great question. As a CIO in an organization, especially a software, I was a CIO at a software organization that made CRM and ERP software.
Yeah.
It was smaller boutique type stuff. It
Yeah.
wasn't the grand stuff, but it was really eye opening for me, and to actually be accountable for the IT or the technology piece of the company. You have a tangible connection to the responsibility of that role.
Right.
And so, leaving that role, and I've done operations and I've done, other things on the business side. You leave a role like that with a true understanding and respect for what the IT departments deal with and are held accountable for. So for instance, growing up mostly on the business side of things, you're always like, darn it, why can't we go faster? Why can't I have that toy that I saw or that tool at this conference? Why can't I do this? And and it felt like your technology teams were always saying no, slow down, wait, and
Right.
it always felt like you're pulling an anchor along. When you're on the other side of the fence, you realize that if the business operations just takes off on whatever whim or whatever new thing that's out there, and they go with it, and it breaks, weirdly enough, IT ends up being held responsible for it in some way. You're the technology people, you should have known. What's interesting about the RPA tools that are out there today is, as we've talked about many times, they're not programmer type tools.
Mm-hmm.
Your business people that have a technology slant really can use this stuff. Right. They're the employees that are sitting in your operation that can write macros in Excel, and they're always like looking for a different way to do things, a different way to process stuff, using Access or Excel or whatever.
Right.
And so that's all the technology you need. And so what it does, it kind of sets up that scenario I was talking about, where the business now can acquire these tools, and these software tools, and they can apply them to their operations. But then you have IT sitting over here that are still in their traditional role generally of somehow I'm going to be accountable for this, so I want to be involved. And we've heard several people speak about how you don't need IT to do this, and I think technically that's accurate. I think practically it's not.
Yeah.
I believe having sat in both chairs throughout my career, I think for an enterprise scale, and maybe not even all the way to enterprise, right? Even like it's a tangible thing that's happening in your organization. I think you have to bring IT. IT has to be there with you as a partner. I mean, it's obvious, but if you think about it, the IT teams, the technology teams, and the business operation teams are all the same company.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so it's not a us versus them thing. It shouldn't be. It really is. You're both after the same thing. You're both there to enable the company you're working for to do better, to deliver better products, to meet the needs of your customers. And so I know. Look, you and I have been in and out of many different roles, and we understand that organizational cultures drive a whole lot of behavior.
Yes, they do.
And the organizational culture isn't necessarily right. It just is.
Right.
And so there's some organizational cultures where there's a lot of contention between the business and IT. And and you and I have engaged them in our new roles now, and and you hear the story from both sides, where one wants to control the other and one wants to take off without permission, and it's doable, but I don't think it's healthy. I really don't. I think you can get started that way, but you're not going to go very far unless you're working together.
I agree, and it's that's part and parcel to some of the recommendations and the advice that I've been giving about as people are entering into their programs. They really need to think about the culture of their organization to understand how they want to strategize moving forward, how they want to engage with the other parts of the organization, and that can be inclusive of IT. Ideally, IT and ops are coming at this together. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Yeah. But as you and that's the advantage of people taking the opportunity to avail themselves of the experiences that that our organizations have, or that guys like you and I have had in understanding how to deal in those organizational cultures. So having sat on both the IT side and the ops side, and seeing software and kind of where it's going, right. What's Joe Peri's prediction for the intelligent automation market over the next several years?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And this is, I mean, anyone who says they know where it's going, they don't. I mean, yeah. They should buy lotto tickets because apparently they know what the numbers are going to be. But,
yeah.
Look, I mean, you look back 15 years ago at what we were doing for automation then. And, I put myself in those shoes for a minute and I ignore what I know today and I go, what would my prediction have been? I don't know that I would have predicted that it ended up here, yeah. Right? I think that it's real, it's tangible. The automation tools are ready. They're mature.
Yeah.
Frankly, especially in the U.S. business operations are just now really starting to understand and adopt this as a way to do work. And I think it's inevitable that you're going to have to, because your competitors are going to do it.
Yeah.
And they're going to reduce their unit costs. They're going to improve quality. Their customer satisfaction is going to go up. I mean, there's so many, there's so many
yeah.
benefits to automation that you can't ignore it. Now, we also know that there's a vein of hype around it, like any new thing that comes out. There's a lot of noise because it gets attention. It's sexy right now, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, again, you go back to in operations, the approach of automating manual processes is not a new concept.
Right.
What is new are the tools, and the tools create unique challenges today, which is scale, mm-hmm. And speed, which are all like, you think immediately like, well, that's good stuff, right? It's like, yeah, it is great stuff, but it creates other problems that you have to be aware of, which I think is, one of the important things about the marriage of IT and operations. IT is very mature in some areas that traditionally you don't find in business operations. One of them is change management.
Right, exactly.
IT has always been light years ahead of the rest of the business in change management. And back when we were working for Anthem and the Medicare side, that was the first experience I ever had. And I don't know about you, but the first experience I ever had where we had business change management.
No, exactly the same.
Yeah. And the concept, when I walked into that, because I had a technology background before that, when I walked into that environment and I saw business operations people sitting around a table talking about changes in Medicare, yeah. and how it affected our operation, and we actually had a release schedule and back out plans and and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was like one of these aha moments where a light bulb goes off and you're thinking, why didn't I think of that?
Right.
Of course, this is obvious, right?
Right.
But you walk into business operations today all over the place and they don't do change management. A change happens, they retrain the people, they send out a memo, yeah. And off they go, right? And I think that's one of many advantages that IT has that they can bring to the table that makes this better. These tools are fast. You can build stuff quickly and you can scale quickly. And so, having some of these disciplines are necessary in business operations. And
yeah.
I think that's a piece of, where it's going. I also think that while it's unavoidable, I think that each company is going to find the best fit for themselves.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a one size fits all. It's obvious. I think that it's something where some organizations I've worked with already have, they don't want to take this enterprise. It doesn't make sense for their business model. Other organizations are like, hey, we're highly repetitive, highly redundant work.
Yeah.
This is a big thing for us. So I think it depends.
Yeah. Well, again, if you spend some time up front, get a trusted partner who can kind of help you through that thought process. You've really got to evaluate the company that you work for, the culture that you work in, the yeah. things and the way that you do them to get off to a good start, I think. Yeah. And so there are far more facets to running a successful RPA program than I think many people take into account. In relative terms, is this technology easier to use than traditional coding or other types of IT? Absolutely. That doesn't mean it's easy. There's lots of things you've got to work through. And you're better served if you can have a partner who's had experience in doing it and helping you out. Well, thanks, Joe. Appreciate you joining me and sharing your insights. Everybody remember, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Ask AJ. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Ask AJ Hanna, no H on the end. We'll see you again next time.